Everyone, welcome back to my channel, or if you are new, welcome to my channel. I have been meaning to do an updated version of this video for a very long time, and I got a message in my Instagram DMs asking if I have done a video on this at all, and it made me think I just need to go ahead and sit and do it. So this is an updated favorite brush video. I'm gonna try my hardest not to make this super long, but I am gonna go through every category of makeup and show you my favorite brushes, whether it be for creams or liquids or powders. And I'm gonna give you a couple of options in different categories. I will have all of the brushes listed and linked below. And I will cut away to me using some of them because I filmed this look today and used all the brushes that I'm gonna be talking about, or some of the brushes. Let's go ahead and get in, okay? Let's start with complexion. The first thing I do for complexion is put on my corrector. The majority of these brushes you will find are gonna be either from Refer or BK Beauty. There's a couple of other brands dispersed without. I do have a few Sigma brushes I'm gonna talk about as well, but those are kind of my top 3 brush brands at the moment. So I use the BK Beauty 113 to apply my corrector. I believe this is technically like a precision powder brush, but that's the beauty of brushes. You can use them however you want. There is no right or wrong way to use a makeup brush, period. Even if you want to use goat hair with liquids, it's not recommended, but who cares? You do what you want with your brushes. So I like to use this to kind of buff out or stipple in my corrector. Sometimes I will use it flat like this, and sometimes, like I did today, I will put it on its side and really press it in so that I can get into the troughs or hollows of my under eye, because that's really where I want my corrector to be concentrated the most. So really, I don't have another option because this is what I reach for every time. Next is foundation, and I had to mention this one because this is probably the longest lasting favorite in my collection and one I will always go back to. This is the IT Cosmetics number 7 Heavenly Complexion Brush. I just adore this brush for buffing in foundation, for stippling foundation, however you want to do it. It's just the perfect size, perfect density, perfect brush for that. So definitely always a recommendation. No matter what I tend to be reaching for, I will always go back to this at some point. And the one that I'm using the most at the moment is the BK Beauty 101 brush. It's just perfect for stippling in foundation, which is my preferred way of using a liquid foundation. I find I get the best coverage when I stipple it in. Despite the size of this, I still feel like if you have a smaller face than mine, because I do have a little bit of a larger face, you can still make use of this for applying foundation. And it's just perfect because it blends it out perfectly, but also doesn't gunk up within the bristles. It cleans easily. It checks all the boxes. So definitely the one I'm reaching for the most right now. But those are my 2 most loved foundation brushes. I have 4 options for concealer, and 2 of them are basically the same brush. I just want to give you, again, some options to go by. But the BK Beauty 109 has been the one that I've reached for the most over the past probably 2.5 years. Again, just to stipple the concealer under my eyes. If I buff a concealer, I take coverage away, and that is not my goal. So I do like something that I'm able to stipple the product in with, and this is perfect for that. And another option from Sigma that is very similar, because this is not the only version of this brush that you can find. Lots of brands do this. And this is the Precision Powder F08. Again, a powder brush, but is dense enough for creams and just fits under the eyes perfectly. So 2 of the almost same brushes, but different options. One has a longer handle, if that matters. Another one that I have recently in the past few months started liking is the BK N14. This is a different, obviously, size, but I still use it to stipple. It's just, there's really no rhyme or reason for why I choose one over the other. Same with the BK A506, and that is just a mini version of this 109. So if you have a smaller area you're wanting to conceal, if you're wanting to conceal different areas of your face and you don't want something as large, this is a great option as well. But I would say overall, I reach for the 109 the most when it comes to blending out my concealer. Now, before we move on to setting the face, I'm gonna talk about my favorite brushes for cream blush. And the one that I'm using the most at the moment is the BK A507, which is just a large, probably meant for more powder blushes, but I don't care because the density is perfect. And the size, again, for my face is perfect just to stipple the blush right on the cheeks where I want it. And it blends it out as it applies. Now, another one that I really enjoy, especially if you're using maybe a cream blush that's in a palette that's harder to get to, you don't want to use something this large, is the Sigma Soft Angled Cheek F43. So it's the same type of angle. It's really the same density, it's just smaller. So if you have a smaller face, if again you have a smaller palette or a compact that you're trying to get into, this is perfect and does the same thing. It just doesn't cover as much area, but that it doesn't matter. It applies it basically the same way. So these are the two I reach for the most when I'm using cream blush. While I did not use cream bronzer today, I do want to mention my favorite brush for that, and it really hasn't changed. I will deviate a little bit, try some new things. The BK 109 is good for cream bronzer as well, but I always go back to the Hourglass Vanish foundation brush. There's something about the size, the angle, and the density that just, again, if you can't tell, stippling is my absolute favorite way to apply almost all of my makeup. And it just makes it so easy to do that while blending it out at the same time. So I'm not left with harsh lines, or I don't feel the need to go in with a different brush and blend any further. It just always works. I've had it for years. I go back to it for years, and it's definitely my number one. Now let's talk about setting the face. I have been incorporating a two-step powder set routine for the past few months, and it just seems to be working the best for me. And while this is not a brush, I do have to mention just a good old powder puff. This is what I use for the center of my face when I'm using a loose powder, because I want that area to not be shiny at all. So pressing this into that area, or pressing the powder into that area with a puff, is the best way for me to go lately. And it does not matter what kind you get. Just go to Amazon, click powder puff, and you will have hundreds of options come up. They're very inexpensive. I will re-wash mine and use them personally, but I actually give them to my clients when I use them because they're so inexpensive and not technically something you can sanitize properly. But for myself, I just wash it when I wash my brushes, and every month I'll change it out for a new one. But when I am setting my face, I will use most of the time a press powder for this step. But both of these brushes work great for loose as well. The Anissa multi-powder brush is something I have been loving ever since I got it last year. I use this with a press powder today, and it's just so easy to, again, stipple that product where I want it to. It's dense enough, but fluffy enough to not put too much product on. It's just really the perfect combination of size, shape, density for a good pressed or loose powder application for your face. If you are wanting something more targeted, I really like the Soft Sculpt brush from Sigma. This is the F11. It does have a much looser kind of density to it, so it's a little bit fluffier, but it's not the fluffiest. So I can really pinpoint if I don't want to use a puff, or if I feel like I'm a little more shiny and I want to use a loose powder or a pressed. Really, it works for both. It's great for stippling in that product as well. It's just a smaller option. Okay, let's talk about bronzer. I have quite a few options for bronzer because I feel like depending on the formula you're using will depend on the kind of brush you need. If I'm using something that is a little bit of a stiffer formula in a pressed version, like the one I used today, my MAC Matte Rosy Bronzer, or anything that's like a baked gelée, which sometimes is hard to pick up on a looser brush, I will a lot of times reach for this BH Cosmetics brush that I have had for so many years. It came in a set. You can't get it anymore. I don't even think BH Cosmetics is a company anymore. But what I used today that I wanted to show you that is very similar is the IT Cosmetics Love Beautifully brush. I'm hoping, let me see what it says. Flawless Blush Brush, number 227. I hope you can still get this, but the point is something that is a little bit firmer. I like the angle so that I can pick up the product. It's gonna pick up on these bristles because they are firmer, and press it into my skin. It lays down the product perfectly while blending it out at the same time. So when I'm using baked gelée or a firmer formula, pressed formula, I tend to choose something like this. And when I am using something that is either super pigmented, very finely milled. I always reach for my Rephr number 5. It's just my favorite. I love this with the Laura Mercier Baked Bronzer. There's no better combination for me, but it works with a lot of other highly pigmented pressed or loose bronzers because you have a little bit more give with the bristles. It's a little bit fluffier. It kind of touches more surface when you're blending it out, and I can just dust products on with this and it looks flawless every single time. Now, if you are using something and you want to look bronze, or like me, you have a little bit of a larger face, I always recommend the Rephr 22. This is a very good option if you like the Tom Ford bronzer brush. I don't even know if they still have that. I have it. I'm not sure if they sell it, but it really gets to very large areas of your face. So if you're wanting a very bronze look, or if maybe you feel like you used a foundation that's a little too light for you and you want to kind of go all over with a lighter bronzer to kind of warm it up, this is a great option for that. So really something to work for every face shape and bronzer formula within those 4 brushes. For powder blush, my favorite blush brush of all time has been for countless years, I mean at least probably 7 years now, is the IT Cosmetics for Ulta Soft Touch Blush Brush. This, to my knowledge, only comes, at least this exact one, in a set with another brush that I'm gonna talk about in a minute. And those 2 brushes alone make the set worth it, in my opinion. So that's what I'm gonna link, the set. The other brushes are great in it too, but this is just the perfect size, perfect fluffiness, perfect everything for blush. It is so dinged up, it is so old, it has survived so many washings. I can't recommend this brush enough. I love it so much. But if you don't want something as big, I have also been using the Sephora number 4 blush and bronzer, which also comes in a set. I don't think you can get this separate, and I'm hoping this set is still available. But this is a little bit more dense, not too much. It's still fluffy enough, but it's also smaller. So if I have a Baked Gelée formula or something that maybe is not as pigmented and I need a little more pressure to pick up the product, I will reach for something like this because it just is a touch firmer and smaller and just applies those kind of blushes perfectly. But if I had to pick, by far, the IT Cosmetics one. And the other brush from IT Cosmetics set that I just talked about is the blurring powder brush. Again, something I have used for 7 or 8 years. It is dinged up, it has survived countless washings, and this is by far and away my favorite buffing brush. I talk about buffing a lot. I use my Hourglass powder. I will really load up the product on this brush and just go to town with pretty heavy pressure. It doesn't mess up the makeup underneath it. It just blurs everything. Wait, it's called blurring powder. Yeah, it works. It does that. It blurs everything that I buff out with this brush. Any duo fiber brush will do for this step, but this is far and away my favorite. And I've tried a lot. Just, it's something about it is perfect. And then finally for the face, we're gonna talk about highlight brushes. And I really just have 2 that are my favorite. I really gravitate towards now cream highlights, liquid highlights, and a lot of times I will just use my fingers for those, as you've seen in a lot of my videos. However, if I'm using a cream highlight or a liquid and I want to use a brush, I will also reach for my 109 brush from BK Beauty. Again, very versatile. I don't use the same one I do for my concealer because I have another one. You could, but this is just another version that I have, and I used it today to apply the Dalton cream highlight, and it just works perfect. If I am using a powder, which I went out of town this weekend, I took my Jane Iredale Allure eyeshadow powder highlight, which is one of my favorites. I will use the Anastasia, I don't know what this is because it's rubbed off. I've had it for like 10 years. I wanna say, I don't know. I'm gonna list it down below. It's their highlight brush. It's perfect. It is absolutely perfect. And I just have never found the need to search for another powder highlight brush. Now, if you have a really fluffy eyeshadow brush, that works great for the powder highlight as well. But I still gravitate towards that all the time. Okay, let's get into eyes. I'm not gonna take a ton of time on eyes. To be quite honest, my favorite brushes for eyes are from Rephr, hands down, no questions asked. I'm going to go through kind of my 3 to 4 step regular eye routine if I'm doing a full eye look and show you my favorite brushes for that. But truly any of the Rephr brushes that you find are going to be fabulous, in my opinion. We're gonna start with crease, and I have two favorite brushes from Rephr for that. The one I use in the video is the 27. It is very fluffy and a little more spread out at the top than the next brush I'm gonna talk about, so it's not as dense and covers more real estate on the eye. So if you have eyes that are shaped like mine are a little deep set, so I do feel the need to go up a little bit above my crease so that you're able to see my crease color. This is fabulous for that. If you want something a little more dense, but still a good crease brush, the 15 is another one I go for a lot. And it is before the 27 came out, I used the 15 by itself all the time. But these are my two favorite crease brushes by far. My favorite lid brushes to apply either a matte or a shimmer, it doesn't matter, is the Rephr 2 brush. I believe in the video, I was literally just using it. I believe I used the 2 Max, but I can't find that right now. This is the just 2 regular, but it is a longer handle. And it's just the perfect flat shader brush. It works great with mattes. It works great with shimmers. I never have an issue with this, and it's just the perfect size. If I'm wanting to add some depth to the outer corner for more of a smoky eye, I will often reach for the number 28 brush, which is a little bit of a taller, slimmer version of the number 2. And because it is taller and slimmer, I can really get into that outer corner and pack on color perfectly. I kind of stamp the color on, and that's where I want to keep it, and then I'll use it to just blend it out a little bit. Another option is the 26 brush, which is a kind of jumbo pencil brush, but serves the same purpose for that outer corner and blending out at the same time. When I am using a pencil eyeliner, I will often reach for, and I don't know if this is still available, I'm just showing it to you. I don't even really have an option to use instead of this, so if it's not available, just try to find something like it. But this is the Real Techniques shading brush. It's very dense, it's very small, it doesn't move a ton, so I'm able to really get in and smudge liner out. But if I'm using a powder liner, this is a brush every single person needs in their collection. The Rephr number 29. This is the most tiny, detailed brush that I think I have in my collection. I love this brush. It puts on powder eyeliner basically by itself. It's a dream. Everyone needs it. Everyone needs it. And then for the under eye, if I am continuing to pull my liner under my eye, I'll use that same Real Techniques to kind of smudge it out. If not, there are a lot of options from Rephr. The one I use today is number 13, which is just a nice long pencil brush that's not too fluffy, but not too dense, kind of puts the perfect amount of shadow under my eye. If you want an actual pencil brush, the number 3 works great for more detailed, concentrated color under the eye when you're using powder. And the 26 that I mentioned on the outer corner can also be used great underneath the eye. Lots of options there. Oh, the only one that I haven't talked about and that I will, y'all, I can't even tell you how old this brush is. Probably more than 10 years old. This is the Anastasia A12 brow brush. I just have not used another one. I need to probably replace this, but sometimes I'm like, why? It's not broken. Until it's broken, I'm not gonna try another one. It just works perfect. I love the shape, I love the size. It's just never failed me. So even though I didn't film myself doing brows, I do have a couple of videos of me doing them, and that's the brush that I used. Oh, lots of information, I know. Hopefully that didn't go too fast, but I just didn't want it to be an excessively long video. It probably is gonna end up that way anyways, but I will have every single brush that I talked about listed and linked below. Let me know if you have any questions and share some of your favorite brushes as well. So thank y'all so much for watching. I will see you in my next video, and I hope y'all all go out and have a very blessed day.